The weather outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. And since we're no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
Yes, the weather outside is frightful, and the weather inside could be frightful too if you have a power outage and the heat goes out. What I'm going to show you here is a way to keep your heat going with a car battery or a power pack for a car. Now this will only work if you have gas-fired steam heat. It won't work for oil-fired, it won't work for hot water heat, it won't work for hot air heat. The reason being is all of those devices require electric motors, blowers, pumps, and too much power is consumed, and a battery can't supply the amount of power required. But if you have a gas-fired unit and it's steam heat, it could probably keep the burner going for up to 80 hours based on my calculations. So let me show you how this is done. Here's a picture of my unit, which, as I say, is gas-fired, a steam system. It's brand new. I just had it put in. And now I'm going to show you how to fire it up during a power outage. The first thing you have to do is get a small socket, like a cigarette lighter socket, that would be used in a car. Here's a picture of that device. And now in the next picture, I show you the hot input and the ground input. When I say hot input, I mean the wire that will be hooked up to the hot side of the battery, the positive side, the side that has the red cap on it. Now here I'm soldering wires onto these two terminals, one onto the ground lug or terminal, and one onto the hot terminal. Next, you'll have to locate the transformer. Now, here's a picture of my transformer and the power that is supplied to it. I have a little box there, which is like a breaker box with a power shutoff lever on the side, and then below it is the transformer. And what the transformer does is converts 120 volts, which comes out of that power box, to 22 volts, which is used by the heating device or the firing mechanism. Now, before you do anything, it is essential that you shut the power off to the box that contains the transformer. You absolutely have to do that, otherwise you might get electrocuted, and of course we don't want that to happen. Once the power is shut off, now you can take the transformer off the box to expose the wires underneath. That's what I'm showing you here. Here's a diagram of how you're going to connect wires in that transformer box. You're going to connect two new wires with the wire nuts that are existent in the original box, and those two wires are going to come out of the side of this box, and you'll have to use a clamp there in order to clamp the wire that you're bringing out of that transformer box. And then we're going to attach these wires to another box which I'll mount below the transformer box. You'll see that in a minute. Here is the box mounted below the transformer box. You're going to run the wires into that box and then mount a regular output or a plug socket in the box. After the plug has been mounted, now you want to test it and make sure that it has been done correctly. So close the box, that is the transformer box and the box that contains the outlet. Turn the power back on, and you should see lights light up that show that the heating unit is operational. I have two little diodes there, and the green diode shows me that the unit is now operational. And now I'm ready to continue. It would be also good to test the plugs and make sure that you have 120 volts coming out of those plugs. I used a meter here, but you could just plug in a light and make sure that the light lights, and that will tell you that this has been installed correctly. Here are two little lugs. They have a machine thread on one side and a wood thread on the other, and we're going to use them and screw them into the wood below the outlet box that you've installed. I'll show you that in a minute. Now what I've done here is I've installed a clamp. It's actually a clamp that could be used for electrical conduit, but you could use any clamp I want to clamp the socket that you've made, that you attach the wires to, also to the wood below this outlet box. Then you're going to obtain what is called a power inverter. You can get this in a local auto supply. It costs about $20 at most. And here I show a diagram of it. What it does is it makes 12 volts that you're going to bring in from your battery into 120 volts. That is then going to be plugged into the outlet that you've mounted. Now take the two wires that are attached to the plug and attach them with nuts to the two lugs that you've screwed into the wood below the outlets, or below the outlet that you installed. I show a picture of that here. Be sure to mark the lug that is attached to the hot side, that is the hot wire from the plug, with a red magic marker or some sort of device so that you know that is the place that you're going to attach the red cable from the battery. In other words, the hot side of the battery. And the other side, of course, will be attached with the ground side. Here's a picture of the final setup. And notice what I've done. I put a big pink marker by the hot side so you can't make a mistake. That's where the hot side of the battery is going to be attached, and the other side will be the ground side. But I want to be sure that I attach the hot side to the right location and the ground side to the right location. The next step is to take a piece of lamp cord. You can get one from an old lamp or an old light, maybe the one that's thrown out, that has a plug on the end. Cut the wire and put another male plug on the other end so that both ends of the wire have a plug rather than a socket. Here's a power pack that I used to fire up the unit. You could use a battery too. If you use a power pack, you could make it much easier. With a battery, it's a little more complicated, but not much. Here I clearly show the hot cable and the ground cable on the power pack so that you know which to attach where. But it's pretty obvious. The hot cable's red and the ground cable's black. Plug one end of the wire that you've made with the two male plugs, one into the inverter and the other plug into the power outlet. Before you do this, be sure that the source to the transformer is off. Throw that switch. Don't plug it in while it's on. So turn off the switch, or the main switch that feeds the transformer, and then plug in these two plugs. Then attach the clamps from the power pack as shown here. Here's the final setup. Now your unit should start. You should see the diode, if you have a little diode on the burner, light up, and it's ready to go. When you are not using this device to fire up the burner, be sure to unplug the unit from the outlet before you turn on the main power to the transformer. So when it's not in use, leave it unplugged. It might even be a good idea to take the plug and put it away somewhere so nobody can inadvertently plug it in. Because what will happen is you'll ruin the inverter, the power inverter possibly. Well, that's the story. You should be able now to fire up your burner even with a power outage using a power pack. Using a battery. If you want to use the power pack, you can do it more easily. You don't even have to set it up with an inverter, because most power packs come with an inverter pre-installed. I'm going to show you in the next few frames how you could do that without making this elaborate setup. Matter of fact, all you have to do is make the plug setup. You don't need the inverter or the socket or anything else if you're going to use a power pack that already has an inverter on it. When I say an inverter, I mean a 120 volt output. Here I show you that you don't have to really create the part to which the cables are attached if you're going to use the output of the power pack itself. I don't really know if all power packs have that, but I assume they do. Here I show the 120 volt output on my power pack. And here's what I would do. I plug one end of the plug into that and the other end into the plug that I've mounted on the board just below the transformer. Be sure again that the power is off to the transformer before you plug it into the power pack at this 120 volt output. So in summary, what you can do if you're going to use a battery is you make the first device that I showed you with the lugs and the inverter that you bought from the auto supply store, and hook it up as I described. And if you're going to use a power pack that has an output already, then all you have to do is set up that plug like I showed you, and plug one end into the outlet and one end into the power pack. In either case, you'll be able to have heat even though the power is out. So you might be in the dark, but you won't be cold. Good luck.